Welcome everybody to Buddhist study class. Buddhist study class, it provides specially for Phraentham, Dhammasarano. He pay attention, he devote himself to be a monk, to prepare and present readiness to study Buddhism intensively. So every day from the May 31st, he studied and practiced the monks in Buddhist way very well. Then I think the last week for his ordination, after he studied more about the Buddha's teaching, but I would like him to know about the Buddha's life, activities, and enlightenment. And 2 days ago, we start studying the Buddha's way. I use the word the Buddha's way instead of the Buddha life or biography because it covers so many issues dealing with the Buddha's activity, such as first we study about the birth of Siddhartha. Siddhartha grew among luxurious life, and Siddhartha was kind to every being when he was young. He was very polite and gentle to all people. Any people who view him or saw him feel very happy and cool and delightful. Then after he saw the side of old age, sickness, death, hope, and the homeless wanderer, then he had aspiration that we are in the power of old age, sickness, and death. We cannot escape. So how can we be among it with our weariness, sadness, and lamentation? Then he find that harmless wanderer, the one who have no task in the family, will be the free way for him to seek the truth. And after that, he renounced the world. He renounced the 3 palaces that proper for each season. He renounced beautiful wife and nice children, Rahula. He renounced and offered on property, gold, and real estate to his beloved wife, Pimpa or Yasodhara. He does make them trouble about living. It's well known that when the time comes, many men decide to leave the home to seek the everlasting peace or to prepare him to be born well in the future. But based upon loving kindness to all beings, Siddhartha decided to renounce the world and set experimentation for the absolute liberation that means free from suffering. That he had so many experimentation based upon the many thing, many purpose many goals, but the same goal is not different. That is peace, everlasting peace, or end of suffering for all beings. And he set hypothesis to free him and all human beings from suffering. And then in seek the truth, he must devote all time and life for seeking the truth. So as we read up until chapter 20, he conduct so many experimentation. He used self as a center for all experimentation. He researched about what he feel in each experimentation. Is it possible to free from suffering by each experimentation? And today we would like to start chapter 21. It's crystallization of thought. That's very important. It's like crystallization and conclusion and finalization and what to do. Let's us followท่าน Dhammasarano reading from now on.
Although the Bodhisattva had diligently practiced ascetic disciplines in many forms as practiced by renunciants of his time, and had trained to still the mind, to make the mind aware, and to use mental power in many ways in accordance with the principles he had studied, he still felt that the results of this practice were not complete liberation from suffering that he was seeking. There remained some practices yet to be discovered, or else had already been practiced and had not yet reached the final goal. At that point, his mind, well trained over time, and the reflections born from each stage of practice began to crystallize into what could be called a crystallization of thought, a kind of summary formed from long and intense experiences expressed through analogy. 1. Just as man who seeks fire but rubs fire sticks against wood that is saturated with resin and soaked with water will never obtain fire, and his effort is in vain. So too, a renunciate, whether ascetic or Brahmin, who has not yet physically withdrawn from sensuality, who still takes delight in, loves, is infatuated by, thirst for, and is agitated because of sensuality, who has not yet abandoned or renounced sensuality, who has not yet calmed his inner agitation or cooled down, even if he endures severe, coarse, sharp, burning, and intense painful feelings brought about by effort, or even if he does not endure such pain, he is not yet fit to know, to see, or to awaken the noble Dhamma. 2. Just as a man who seeks fire, but rubs fire against freshly cut wood saturated with resin, though placed on land far from water, will still never obtain fire, and his efforts is still in vain, so too a renunciate, whether ascetic or Brahmin, even though he has physically withdrawn from sensuality, if he still takes delight in, loves, is infatuated with, intoxicated by, thirsts for, and is agitated by sensuality, if he has not yet abandoned or calmed his inner agitation, even if he endures severe, coarse, sharp, burning, and intense painful feelings brought about by effort, or even if he does not endure such pain, he is still not fit to know, to see, or to awaken the noble Dhamma. 3. Just as a man who seeks fire and rubs fire sticks against perfectly dry wood placed on dry ground will obtain fire as desired, and not labor in vain, so too a renunciant, whether ascetic or Brahmin, who has physically withdrawn from sensuality, and has abandoned, calmed, and let go of delight, infatuation, and intoxication with sensuality, who no longer thirsts or is agitated of it, who has calmed both outer and inner unrest, even if he endures severe, coarse, sharp, burning, and intense painful feelings brought about by effort, or even if he does not endure such pain, he is fit to know, to see, and to awaken the noble Dhamma. This summary of long practice and experience shows that the renunciant, who is still engages with sensuality in any form, or who has ceased physical engagement but still delights in, is infatuated with, intoxicated by, relentless or craving for sensuality, still cannot attain awakening. But whenever someone completely ends all engagement with sensuality and no longer delights in it, is no longer infatuated, intoxicated, agitated, or craving, that person has the opportunity to know, to see, and to awaken the noble Dhamma, which has entirely uproots and eradicates both delight in and aversion to sensuality. These three crystallizations of thought by the Bodhisattva are of great value. They arose from deep experience in mental training. Once he saw the path towards awakening, he was able to define a strategy and framework of practice in order to rise above delight, satisfaction, and infatuation with sensuality, and to create the process to still and extinguish the thirst for sensuality until even the instinctual compulsion to be scorched by fire of sensual desire was transformed into a state of calm, nourished, and protected by wisdom insight. Understanding the problem and the root causes clearly enabled him to define the goal of escape from the problem and to seek a suitable way out. From this point on, the Bodhisattva's aim was to elevate the mind above delight in sensuality in its mental forms, which arises through form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental objects that the mind tends to recall from the past through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind as receiving faculties. At this stage, he was like dry wood kept far from water, awaiting the right friction to spark the fire. What kind of friction would produce the fire? How would he practice to overcome satisfaction and sensuality, to still inner agitation using wisdom insight? These were questions worthy of deep contemplation and study. Chapter 22, A Critical Experiment.
Okay.
When the Bodhisattva concluded the results of his mental training, he understood what its strengths and weaknesses were, and how to enhance the strengths and eliminate the weaknesses so that he could break through all obstacle and reach the highest freedom. He discovered that delight, infatuation, intoxication, restlessness, thirst, desire, to have, to be, to possess in relation to form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental objects, collectively called sensuality, were still present within the mind as what is called sensual defilement. Even though he was living far from the material sensual objects, the sensual defilements within the mind remained an obstacle to the attachment, to the attainment of the ultimate peaceful bliss. The Bodhisattva thoroughly reflected on all various methods he had practiced and resolved that subjecting the body to austerities and physical hardships might draw the mind, which tended to become preoccupied with sensuality, back towards the attention on the effects of present physical pain, and would gradually distance it from sensual objects. Sensual craving or thoughts of infatuation towards what is desirable tends to arise when the body is strong, full of energy, and in good health. But when the body is subject to pain and becomes weak, the strength of sensual feelings would weaken or disappear, along with the fading bodily vitality. He therefore began by pressing his upper and lower teeth together, clenching tightly, pressing his tongue against the roof of his mouth, and restraining his mind to remain focused solely on what was presently occurring, not allowing it to wander. This practice caused sweat to pour from his armpits. His body became agitated as though a powerful man were pressing down on and strangling someone weaker. Even in the face of such painful and torturous conditions, he remained steadfast, unshaken, and unwavering, maintaining firm mindfulness throughout. The result of this practice, even though it involved physical torment, did not cause his mind to feel suffocated or distressed in any way. That is, though the body was in pain, the mind did not waver along the body's suffering. This revealed a mind that was unmoved, not swayed by aversion or irritation in any form. The next method the Bodhisattva used to torment the body was a breathless form of meditative practice. He stopped breathing through both nose and mouth. As a result, air naturally tried to exit through ears, making a loud roaring sound like a goldsmith operating a bellows to stoke a furnace for melting gold. Eventually, he prevented air from exiting through the ears as well, completely sealing all channels of breath. The effect of this intense restraint caused the following symptoms. Air rose up and pierced his head. He felt a deep ache through every hair, as though razor-sharp blade were slicing his scalp. He experienced extreme headaches, as if a strong leather strap were tightly wrapped around his head. Air forced its way downwards, churning in his stomach. The pain was intense, as though a butcher or a butcher's assistant were cutting and flaying his belly with a knife for carving meat. The burning pain was unbearable. 4. The abdominal pain then spread throughout his entire body. He became restless and overheated, as if two strong men had seized and thrown him into a pit of burning coals. These agonizing symptoms circled around repeatedly throughout the period in which he trained himself with such harsh, unrelenting rigor. His perseverance remained constant and unshaken. He never weakened or recoiled in fear of the pain. Even though his body was overwhelmed and agitated as a result of the intense exertion, and even though the resulting sensation were sharp and burning, his mind remained pure and steady. It did not absorb the pain experienced by the body at all. His experience from this trial demonstrates that a well-trained mind can distinguish physical pain from mental pain. He began to dwell above suffering, and clearly saw there was no infatuation, intoxication, desire, restlessness, or craving for sensuality at all during the period of bodily torment. Anyone who happened to witness the Bodhisattva undergoing this bodily experiment offered various opinions. Some said that Gautama was clearly going to die this time. Others said that he was not going to die, but was close to death. Still others who admire and firmly believe that self-mortification was the path to arahantship praised him, saying he was not dying nor about to die at all. Rather, they believed that he was soon to become an arahant. They believed that such practice was regular daily discipline of those who are arahant.
This is mortification. The chapter, he had that very hard practice about how to play with breathing in and breathing out. How he played the air in his body according to the description. But it is not by the peace or everlasting peace. He had so many tactics about how to play, how to manage, how to arrange the air. So I think it is a experimentation on playing the air, on management the air, adjust air into the body in so many figures as they try to play. This is a very important experimentation by himself, conducted by himself. Chapter 23, this is absolute self-mortification. Okay.
Even though the Bodhisattva had tested himself through physical mortification in its early stages, and his mind was able to rise above sensation and grow distant from sensual desire and pleasure, he realized that even with such a mental state, he had not yet attained true liberation he sought. He therefore resolved to engage in Dhammasarano, the most difficult form of ascetic practice, by gradually reducing his food intake in stages. As soon as he made this determination,
it is called Tukkara Kiriya, Tukkara Jariya in the Pali language. Okay, as soon as
he made this determination, it is said that deities came to attend upon him and respectfully informed him that even though he would abstain from food, the Tewas, who revered his perseverance, would drop divine essence into his pores to sustain his physical body with celestial nourishment. The Bodhisattva declined all such offers from the Tewas. If he had accepted their help, it would have been a violation of the vow he had made in his own practice and training.
This word very important, and that even Deva has a more powerful to give something to human being, but the Buddha declined or deny helping from the Deva. This important witness that Buddhism is emphasized on humanity, but Buddhism never deny existing of Deva. But even the Bodhisattva never pray for the Deva to help, never pray for help. So chanting in Buddhism is different from praying. Chanting is to repeat for focusing on meditation. That is Viyut chanting. Or even the Deva or deity offer help to give something for him. No problem, you can fast, but I will insert you some nutrition by the skin or something like that. He said no. The Buddha practiced directly. He never get any corruption. Okay, when he practiced directly, when he conduct experiment directly, just the direct result, the real result, he will gain. Okay.
This story offers three important insights. One, the Bodhisattva maintained absolute honesty with himself. No one, not even a deity, could sway him from the truthfulness towards himself or others. Two, in self-training, every step must be genuine. The truth must be practiced in a straightforward and uncompromising way without deception, shortcuts, or illusions. Because false steps lead to false outcomes. Anyone seeking to follow in the footsteps of the Buddha or the Bodhisattva must base their practice firmly on what is real. 3. The relationship between the Bodhisattva and the Tewas was always one of goodwill, yet he maintained a friendship-like equality with them. If a practice relied so heavily on divine assistance that it diminished the value of human effort, he would not engage in it. Though the Tewas offered help using their powers, the Bodhisattva would not accept it so long as he retained full human strength. This marks an important decision. Buddhism is not a theistic religion that depends on divine beings. Instead, it regards Tewas as companions to humanity, not as sacred or permanently powerful. Tewas are former humans who earn temporary birth as celestial beings through their karma. Once that time is over, they too change form according to the universal law of karma. The Bodhisattva gradually reduced his food intake until he consumed only the inner husk of mung beans, wing beans, black beans, and lotus seeds, and eventually took no food at all. The effects of such extreme fasting caused many changes in his body. His body became extremely thin, exposing his bones and joints like a vine with many nodes or blackened joints. His buttocks shriveled like a camel's hoof. His spine protruded like thorny vines. His ribs stuck out like slats of an old hall. His eyes sank into their sockets like stars at the bottom of a deep well. The skin of his scalp shrank like an immature gourd left to dry in the sun and the wind. When he imagined stroking his stomach, his hand met his spine. When he tried to touch his spine, he only felt his abdomen, as they had collapsed together. When he attempted to urinate or defecate, he would collapse on the spot. If he tried to soothe his body by stroking it, the hairs at the roots, weakened from nourishment, would fall into his palm. After carrying out this entire process of fasting and enduring these near-death symptoms for a long time, the Bodhisattva reflected, among all ascetics and Brahmins of past, present, and future, who endured extreme painful sensations caused by severe striving, the suffering does not exceed this. This is the limit. And yet I have not attained the profound knowledge and vision of the noble ones that transcend ordinary humans. Perhaps this is not the pathway to enlightenment. I recall it now with mindfulness. That path may be the path to enlightenment. I then reflected, am I afraid of happiness that is free from sensuality and unwholesome states? I then reflected further, I am not afraid of such happiness. Having walked the path of self-mortification to its furthest limit, and seeing it as a dead end, the great man decided to return to the path he had followed in his youth, and nearly into adulthood. This was the ordinary human path, but one people overlooked. It was the return to mindfulness of breathing, known as anapanasati.
Yes, anapanasati.
Anapanasati.
We use the mindfulness of breathing, or in Pali language, anapanasati. Can you repeat it?
Anapanasati.
Yes, this is Pali language, and we call in English mindfulness of breathing. Okay.
This was the path he returned to again, with the hope that it would finally lead him to the ultimate goal.
This is very important for his experimentation in the chapter 22 and 23. That's it, very big or severely, hardly about the experimentation. He tried very hard by himself, and on that way he loved experimentation, and he effort and make diligence on practice, and then focus immediately, contemplatively about that. And then he always analyze, review, was it good, was it bad, was it effect, what is defect, what is merit or demerit, And what can we do? There are any temporary trial and error. Are there any practice severely practiced in temporary? He tried everything, and then after he passed self-mortification, the fasting, the highest fasting that human being had done in the history of those who practice for liberation. Then he come to chapter 24.
The Bodhisattva had used his very life as a tool for experimentation in the search for pure truth hidden within existence. He believed that a life trained through harsh and fiery austerity would reveal insight that penetrates the defilements, transcending both pleasure and pain. But as time passed and his body grew emaciated and deteriorated almost to death, he found that he had only reached a state of equanimity towards external suffering. He had not discovered any knowledge that could truly liberate the mind beyond that. He reflected on the process of self-mortification, which he had carried out thoroughly in every phase. It could be said that from the time ascetic discipline were first created, no one had ever fulfilled the curriculum so completely and perfectly as he had. In the past, ascetics might persevere for a while but would stop halfway upon encountering hardship. Others practiced sincerely but poorly managed their bodies and died soon after. The Bodhisattva, however, survived because of the strong mind and careful maintenance of his body through the crisis. When he concluded that self-mortification was not the path of enlightenment, he considered whether there remained any path he had not yet explored. He reflected deeply with purified mindfulness
and recall.
He reflected deeply with purified mindfulness and recalled a time in his childhood as a young prince when he had attended the royal plowing ceremony with his father. He had gone off to sit alone beneath a large banyan tree and quietly observed his own breathing. He noticed it gradually shifted from coarse to subtle, and his mind became deeply composed, unwavering, serene, radiant, joyful, and immersed in a single peaceful state. When he recollected that happenings born of mindfulness of breathing, which had followed the natural order of Dhamma, he reflected, perhaps this is the path to supreme enlightenment. Despite wandering far and wide, studying, experimenting, and walking countless spiritual paths without attaining to his goal, he now resolved to change the direction and return to the simple breath within him. At this point, the Bodhisattva's journey to seek the luminous, pure, supreme enlightenment was coming to its end at the very tip of his own nose. He recognized the relationship between the body and mind. Mental happiness born of freedom from sensuality and unwholesome states cannot easily arise in a body that is restless and frail. Nevertheless, the joy of renunciation had once experienced would now become the strong foundation for his steps towards supreme enlightenment. This perspective can be adopted for seekers today. Readiness of both body and mind is the foundational basis for all learning. Physical well-being arises from proper balance and balanced nourishment, and with a calm body free from distraction. The mind can remain free from sensuality and unwholesome states. A life prepared for learning and growth must include physical and mental freedom from defilements. The Bodhisattva therefore resolved to begin taking nourishment again to strengthen his body as support for mind to experience happiness born from renunciation. This change marked a major shift in both body and mind in attitude, thinking, and practice after a long period of serious experimentation. The significance of this transformation lies in the following. A shift from the belief when the body is tormented to its limits, the mind will gradually become pure and the defilements will fade as the body weakens. To a realization from experiments that a mind held steady in a body that is exhausted and agitated cannot attain enlightenment. Stability of the mind must arise from clear wisdom, not sheer force. 2. A shift from mortifying the body while trying to preserve only the mind to nurturing both body and mind together in balance without favoring one extreme over the other. 3. A shift from the belief that enlightenment must attain through the deepest suffering to the understand that one must care for the body so that it is strong, not exhausted or distressed, and ensure that the mind is light and undisturbed by defilements or unwholesome thoughts. 4. A shift from the fallen contemporary beliefs and knowledge to beginning a personal investigation of the natural breath with full attention as a true, straightforward path of practice. 5. A shift from tormenting the body to restoring it as strength as a solid foundation from the profound transformation that was now beginning. When the Bodhisattva announced his shift from the old path to a new path grounded in the physical and mental balance as the foundation for seeking truth of the 5 ascetics, Kotana, Wapa, Patiya, Mahanama, and Asachi,
yeah.
who had been attending him with hopes of hearing the Dhamma he attained enlightened, were shocked. They were disheartened and disappointed to hear his change in direction, saying, now the ascetic Gautama had abandoned his striving and become indulgent. Surely enlightenment will never come. That disappointment, arising without mindfulness, turned into fire of anger and hatred. Their goodwill, love, and respect built over so long were consumed by resentment. They left in protest and traveled to Isipatana, Deer Park, in the region of Varanasi, far away and difficult to reach. It is said that the Bodhisattva was left alone, appearing like a skeleton wrapped in a skin, to the point where it was hard to tell if he was dead or alive. A young goat herder who usually passed nearby saw his motionless body lying on the ground. Thinking it might be a corpse, the boy cautiously approached, gently placing his hands near the nose to see if the man was still alive. Finding that he was, the boy quickly gathered whatever vessel he had and milked the goat that was given birth to 2 or 3 kids. Once he had enough milk, he brought it to the Bodhisattva. As he was about to lift the Bodhisattva and help him sit up and receive more milk more easily, he remembered that he was of the outcast group and did not know social status of the man before him. Fearing he might defile by touch, he hesitated. Yet his compassion overpowered all such concern. He softly whispered in the Bodhisattva's ear, asking what caste he belonged to. Though the Bodhisattva was near death and extremely weak, his mind remained radiant and lucid. Hearing the question, he gently shook his head to signal that he belonged to no caste. The boy understood and asked again, if I offer you this milk, will you accept it? The Bodhisattva responded softly that he would. The goat herder then offered the milk joyfully. After receiving the milk rich in nutrients, the Bodhisattva was able to move slightly, though he could not rise yet. His mind was clear and unaffected by external suffering. Both the goat herder and the local village, who had been following the Bodhisattva's ascetic practices with hope that he would attain enlightenment, brought small offerings of food with full faith, believing that he was still a holy person and that their offerings would bring them happiness. As he began to receive sufficient food and milk each day, his health steadily improved. He could sit up by himself, walk short distances, and gradually increase his physical activity. Before long, his body was strong again, and he could go on alms rounds in nearby villages. He resumed eating as appropriate for his bodily needs. On hot mornings or afternoons, he bathed in Naran Chara River. Then he would retreat into forests or caves of
Tungkasiri
nearby.
Tungkasiri.
His skin, once darkened and damaged by dehydration and malnutrition, regained its radiance. Now the Bodhisattva had restored his body and mind to balance and normalcy. His mind rested in the happiness of renunciation, free from the sensuality and unwholesome qualities. Reflecting on present realities, he knew his body was no longer restless, and his mind was calm, naturally calm, not forcibly suppressed by mental effort as before. He had safely passed the threshold of death brought on by asceticism, and now, on this new path, continued unwaveringly towards supreme enlightenment. Though the road had changed, the goal had not. This stands as an example for future generations of seekers who aim for noble life goals. They must be ready to improve, adapt, and develop their path continually in accord with present realities without ever losing sight of their destination. One day, when all supporting conditions weave together in harmony, the luminous goal will appear clearly ahead, not long from now. Whoever seeks to fulfill any noble aim in life, past, present, or future, must walk straight towards it. There is no other method, whether quickly or slowly depending on conditions, but ultimately the destination will be reached.
Yes, this is also the conclusion that before we reach the goal set or we reach the goal of life, we have so many ways we can try. We can set experimentation on the hypothesis. We can have any hypothesis. Hypothesis means what we had never known the result, but it's the way of scientific thinking. The Buddha also his way of seeking the truth, very scientific and systematic. Then he set so many hypotheses and so many experimentation, and the goal is still the same. In many times of experimentation, he found that he gets some liberation from the defilement. He can be free from influence of some defilement, but he had not yet certified what he attained. He think there's some more thing that he cannot gain. Okay, hypothesis had yet said again to be far from the reason he found all time, and that this indicate that on experimentation gives us the result. It would be certified or not certified, but let us do, and that we gain. So we gain the reason from every experimentation, from every action. Just let's do. We think and do, and then we would find, as one day, once we would find the absolute goal that we set already. Let's come to chapter 25. Even in the ancient time, dream is a sign of something that indicate the people be hopefully to be successful or to be fail. Let us listen chapter 25.
Everyone clearly understands one truth. A dream is only a dream. It can never become reality. However, in Eastern cultures, there is a belief that dreams can be signs that reveal success or failure in the future. As a result, many texts have been compiled reporting dreams and interpreting their meaning. Whether true or not, such interpretations can be analyzed statistically, since this data had been collected over 1,000 years. And before the Bodhisattva attained supreme enlightenment, he experienced a series of great dreams known as the Mahasupina.
Mahasupina, Maha means great. Supina means dream. Subin. Supina in Pali, Subin in Thai. Okay.
Or the great dreams. These 5 dreams occurred on the night before his awakening, which was the 14th waxing night of the 6th lunar month, 45 years before the Buddhist era. The Bodhisattva dreamed as follows. 1. He lay down upon the vast land as his bed, resting his head on the Himalayan mountains as his pillow. His left hand extended into the Eastern Ocean, his right hand had extended into the Western Ocean, and both feet extended into the Southern Ocean. 2. Kusa grass sprang up from his navel, growing so high that it reached the sky. 3. A swarm of white worms with black heads had crawled up from his feet, covering them completely and reaching up to his knee. Birds of various colors flew from all 4 directions and landed at his feet, then all transformed into all white birds. He walked back and forth atop a large mountain of excrement, but was not stained by it. Upon awakening, the Bodhisattva remembered the great dreams in detail and interpreted them as follows. He would attain supreme enlightenment, the incomparable and ultimate awakening, unmatched by anything in the world. He would realize and teach the noble Eightfold Path to become human, to both humans and celestial beings. Both realms would become interested in the practice of the Eightfold Path. It would bring benefit to both heaven and earth. Countless householders would rely upon the Tathagata as their guide throughout their lives. Members of the 4 castes, noble warriors, Brahmins, merchants, and laborers would enter monastic life under the Dhamma and Vinaya as taught and fully established by him. They would attain liberation and be freed from all defilements. Although he would receive robes, alms food, lodging, and medicine in great abundance from generous slave supporters, he would not become attached or indulgent. He would remain aware of their dangers, reflect wisely, and consume them mindfully with understanding. He reflected that the 4 requisites offered by people to monks, whether abundant or sparse, if consumed with attachment, would be like excrement and that contaminates life. But if used with wisdom, they would become like sapaya, suitable supports for living a pure life and carrying out wholesome activities. Those great dreams, dreamed and interpreted by the Bodhisattva himself, served as signs indicating that the 6-year effort he had invested in the search for supreme enlightenment was near its fruition. In modern terms, it could be said that this great investment of physical and mental energy was about to yield success as expected. The other element of the dream further indicated that the result of this quest would bring peace and calm to the world. The dissemination of the wisdom he would attain would proceed smoothly and steadily. People of all social classes would benefit equally from access to pure Dhamma, and would come to revere, honor, and worship the Buddha with 4 requisites in high abundance. The material offerings that will pile into massive heaps as high as mountains. Yet Bodhisattva saw all these offerings, the 4 requisites, as if they were piles of excrement. Therefore he consumed them with care, without hoarding, without becoming enamored, without allowing defilement. He used them only to propel his life of freedom forward and to bring vast benefit and happiness to the multitude without limit or end.
Okay. Food before the enlightenment. Chapter 26.
The Bodhisattva, having restored and nourished his body to good health, diligently cultivated spiritual effort with a mind that was light and free from disturbances caused by sensual pleasures and unwholesome mental states. This was nurturing of both physical and mental health to full and well-balanced well-being. Free from the afflictions of body and mind, on the full moon on the month of Vaisakha, according to the lunar calendar, in the late morning, he sat beneath a large tree with thick leaves known as the Banyan tree.
Banyan tree, yeah.
The Suchata, the daughter of the headman of the Senakima village, brought
Senanikama village.
Bought a bowl of milk rice to offer to him. He received it and went to eat it by the bank of the Naranchara river. Legends add that Suchata had once prayed to the tree deity, promising that if she were to have a child as she wished, she would offer milk rice in gratitude. Not longer after her vow, she conceived and gave birth to a son as she had wished. As her son grew safely and healthily, and she became ready in every respect, she prepared the milk rice offering to fulfill her vow. It is said the milk rice was made from grains and fruit available locally at the time. If ripe fruits were available, they were used. If only unripe fruits can be found, those were used instead. Every effort was made to gather as many varieties as possible. The grains included all types of rice, such as glutinous rice, plain rice, millet, and jobs tears. The maker of milk rice did everything possible to obtain an abundant supply. Once the grain and fruits were gathered, pure cow milk was used as the main ingredient to cook them together from start to finish. It was described that preparing the pure cow's milk involved a process, first raising 700 healthy cows and collecting their milk, which was then fed to 70 cows. After a time, milk from those 70 cows was given to 7 more cows. Eventually, the milk from those 7 cows, believed to be completely pure by this natural purification process, was used in milk rice. The person who stirred the milk rice had to be a pure virgin. Once all ingredients were assembled, the stirring process continued uninterrupted until complete. Consider the effort involved in each step of preparation, and it became clear the great human labor, resources, various equipments were needed. Thus, milk rice came to be known as heavenly rice. It was highly nutritious, composed entirely of natural substances, each beneficial to health, making it the most superior food of that era. That day, the Bodhisattva was seated beneath the very tree where Suchata had made her vow. She may have thought he was a deity who had come to receive her offering, or she may have recognized the Bodhisattva's ascetic determination in pursuit of awakening, brought the food as nourishment for his health to support his quest in truth. In any case, Suchata offered the milk rice of full nutritional value to the Bodhisattva on the day before his enlightenment. Later, after attaining Buddhahood, the Buddha praised her as the first lame woman to take refuge in him. This led many Buddhist historians to suggest she might be the mother of Yasa, who lived in the mansion of the Varanasi River near the deer park of Isipatana. After receiving the milk rice, the Bodhisattva ate it on the bank of the Naranchara River. Some accounts describe that when he was finished eating, he set the bowl afloat in the river while making a solemn vow. If he were to attain enlightenment, the bowl would float upstream. If not, it would follow the current downstream. Upon making this determination, the bowl floated upstream. This image carries a deep Dhamma metaphor. The bowl symbolizes the mind, and the river represents the flow of defilements. A bowl floating against its currents is like a mind resisting the flow of defilement. Determination, or iti dana, refers to the firm resolve supported by the four qualities: wisdom, bana, truthfulness, sacha, renunciation, jaka, and calm, upasama. These support the heart. The Bodhisattva made an absolute vow not to let his mind drift along the defilements any longer, but to discipline it against the current from that movement forward.
Okay, very simple. And then now the big chapter, okay, enlightenment.
While the Bodhisattva was partaking of milk rice on the bank of the Naranchara River, he remained at ease in the dense forest filled with the banyan trees and various species of plants naturally coexisting. Each species relied closely on the others, providing abundant shade to those who entered. The plants purified the air, making it fresh and clean. As the afternoon sun declined, he proceeded with the base of the great Bodhi tree, which thick foliage cast a wide shade. Nearby, many trees stood surrounding the Bodhi tree. The Naranchara River, clear and cool, flowed not far from the tree.
1 minute, I would like to say hi. Janani. Now we are going to study enlightenment of the Buddha, or the Buddha's enlightenment. Please pay more attention. This very important chapter. You are devoted Upasika from Sri Lanka. Are you not sleepy? Okay. Are you awake? So from now until the reading over, please pay more attention. Let go.
However, the water level had risen higher than usual because the rains had begun with the arrival of the 6th lunar month. That day was the full moon of the 15th night of the 6th lunar month. The rains had continued for several days. The early rainy season brought warmth. The trees had shed leaves and lacked flower to preserve their trunks through the hot season now. Began to sprout leaves, blossom, and bear fruit throughout the forest. Small plants and grasses joyfully absorbed the rain and bloomed in white.
This is a good rhythm of reading, okay.
Bloomed in white, purple, yellow, orange, and red, spreading beautifully across the fields. Those surrounded by such a pure and naturally beautiful environment could easily experience inner peace. As the Bodhisattva approached to sit at the base of the Bodhi tree, a grass cutter named Sotiya offered 8 bundles of pusa grass for the Bodhisattva to use as a seat to practice diligence. The university where the Bodhisattva mastered the science of extinguishing suffering was not a luxurious palace adorned with gold, silver, or gems, but merely the ground covered with 8 bundles of pusa grass beneath a large tree in a fresh and clean natural setting, setting the foundation for the complete realization of the great truth that had already existed in nature. After sitting upon the seat of awakening, he firmly resolved this sitting would be the final one. He made a solemn vow to exert the full strength of a man without retreat. Even if flesh and blood were to dry up and only skin and bones were to remain, he would not rise from the seat until full enlightenment was attained. This was the great truth of the great man who had persistently striven for 6 years with the unwavering aim of reaching the highest goal of life, true freedom of the heart. With great determination as he began meditating, his mind recalled past times, tempting him forward discouragement. But the mindfulness he had cultivated, quick to detect the movements of mind, and his excellent patience and profound compassion found a powerful force that withstood the disturbance. His mind quickly regained calm and stability. The initial disturbance is called by the personified term Mara's assault. When his first mind overcame Mara's attack, he stabilized his mind as he described when recounting his meditative absorption. We, withdrawn from sensuality and unwholesome states, attained the successful states of absorption as follows. Attained at the first jhana, which had applied thought, vitaka, sustained thought, vichara, rapture, piti, and pleasure, sukha, born of seclusion from sensuality and the unwholesome states. Attained the second jhana with internal clarity, one-pointedness of mind, vitaka, vichara, stilled, with piti and sukha, born of concentration. Attained the third jhana with equanimity, upekkha, mindfulness fully aware, and a deep sense of pleasure. 4. Attain the fourth jhana, beyond pleasure and pain, with equanimity and pure mindfulness, free from both suffering and joy, surpassing former gladness and sorrow. Even such profound pleasure from absorption did not cause him to waver or become attached. After reaching the fourth jhana, his concentration became perfect. As he stated, With a concentration mind, pure, radiant, free of defilement, pliable, workable, firm, and unshakable, this is the quality of concentration that is fully prepared for enlightenment. He described the connection between concentration and the process of enlightenment. With such a concentrated mind, we inclined it toward the knowledge of recollecting past lives.
ปุเพนิวาสานุสติญาณะปุเพนิวาสานุสติญาณะ ปุเพ that mean previously นิวาสะ that mean resident อนุสติ recollection we can say recollection of the resident in previously or can recollect about the birth in the previous time อุปะ mean previous Nivasa resident anusati recollection. This is the word first extraordinary knowledge. Okay.
This day is called the Day of Enlightenment because what occurred beyond the fourth jhana was not a fifth, sixth, seventh, or eighth absorption, but of a new phenomenon he described as knowledge of recollecting past lives. He described this knowledge as follows: we recollect numerous precious lives, 1 to hundreds, with details such as clan, food, age, etc., clearly and accurately as if a man walking from one house to another could recall every detail of the path. After this realization, he was certain that he had entered the path of light. As he declared, in the first watch of the night we attained the first knowledge. With diligence and heedfulness, directing the mind rightfully, ignorance was destroyed. Knowledge arose, darkness was dispelled, light appeared. Even though he experienced the illumination of enlightenment, he remained unmoved by joy or attachment to the newfound insight, remaining calm and stable. This is true concentration. It is knowledge, led and accompanied by continuous stability. He then used the stable, clear mind to contemplate further and discovered the divine eye, Jutu
Papatayan. Jutu, that means dead. Upapata, that means arising. Yana means extraordinary knowledge. Yeah. Transcendent wisdom. As we chant, transcendent wisdom. Yeah. Okay.
Clear mind to contemplate further and discover the divine eye, describing it as we saw beings passing away and being reborn, inferior or superior, beautiful or ugly, well-faring or poorly faring, clearly with a divine eye, knowing that all beings fare according to their karma. In the middle watch of the night, we attained the second knowledge. Even though he understood the backgrounds of being in such detail, he was not shaken or elated by this new knowledge. He pressed on with the diligence to eliminate the subtlest defilements remaining in the human heart, those difficult to know, see, and remove. He said, with a concentrated mind, pure and free of defilements, we inclined it toward the knowledge of the destruction of the taints, Sawakayana Jnana, which he considered the most important knowledge he had sought for 6 years. Of this knowledge, he said, we clearly knew this is suffering, this is the origin of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, this is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. These are the taints, these are the origin of the taints, these are the cessation of the taints, these are the path leading to the cessation of the taints. When this was known,
Asawakayana, that means to end absolutely of the taint. Yeah. Asawa means the taint. Taint, that means tiny or tiny. What you pronounce tiny or tiny? Tiny defilement, very dust or defilement, and is clean absolutely. That become the Buddha. Okay. These are the paths leading to cessation of the taint. Next.
When this was known and seen as true as it truly is, the mind was completely liberated from the taints of sensuality, becoming an ignorance. When the mind was liberated, then came the knowledge. Liberated, birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done is done. There is no more becoming. He said he had attained the third knowledge. The knowledge of the destruction of the taints was the highest knowledge that utterly ends suffering. Thus the Bodhisattva completed the process of enlightenment in a single night after years of building supporting conditions. The Buddha's enlightenment affirmed for all human beings that persistent effort one can surely reach their goals. The pace may differ, but the outcome is certain if the causes are complete. The Buddha attained enlightenment on the full moon day of the 6th lunar month at the age of 35. The enlightenment of the Buddha proclaimed to the world that every person must have the courage to extinguish their own suffering. Since people create suffering, they must be the ones to extinguish it. The problem and the end of suffering are no longer mysterious or beyond nature. Enlightenment is a clear and complete discovery of the truth of suffering and its cessation beyond birth and death. It brought the Buddha full freedom, and he shared this knowledge with countless others so they too liberate themselves from bondage until their passing into Parinibbana.
And this is important goal. He reached the final goal by realization 3 jhana. First, he can recollect the previous birth long time. This is the mighty power from the recollection. This is different from the religion from God, because he realized himself, the first one, and the second one, he know the death and birth of all beings. Even if he some this cat, where you from, in so many times where you birth as you are born as a cat or dog or man or monk. He cannot know, he can know about the birth and the death again. It as he keep the metaphor like, we come from this house, after you abandon this house and go to another house. And then for the last, that means because of the tense, the 10 or asava. Asava it is tini, kilesa or defilement or toxin. The tini toxin we call asava. And the tini toxin was eradicated completely, absolutely. It is called enlightenment. So if we talk shortly, what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is to destroy or to eradicate absolutely defilement. I use the short word like that. Enlightenment is to eradicate defilement absolutely. That is the long process. So after he gained enlightenment, it's time for him to review the Dhamma process. So he said that the process of seeking knowledge, that first he loving the knowledge, the second he devote the effort, more effort for seeking, and the third more concentrate of seeking. And the last one, after he seeks something, he would analyze or review. And even now, he know very well that he attained enlightenment, so he would review the Dhamma he had enlightened. Let's see chapter 28.
After the Buddha attained enlightenment, he remained seated at the base of the Bodhi tree for another 7 days without moving. He spent those 7 days reviewing Paticca Samuppada, the process of the arising and cessation of suffering meticulously and in all its dimensions, stages, and details without rest or sleep, day or night. This shows one truth: the Buddha's life was pure. His purified physical and mental energies harmonized completely, making him a fully awakened human being with full knowledge and awakening and radiant joy, like a flower blooming in spring with full colors and fragrance. His body and mind trained rigorously for years, becoming strong like steel, repeatedly forged and purified, living behind only the finest quality of metal. What made this ordinary man into the Buddha who transcended pleasure, pain, gain, and loss was something even higher than him, Dhamma. The Buddha said himself, "Even I revere the Dhamma." The Dhamma he revered is pure, selfless, and immensely powerful. All things in the world can ease suffering only briefly, but the Dhamma is a treasure of all humanity. Whoever reaches it with their heart can end suffering completely, never to suffer again. Thus the Buddha tirelessly reviewed the elements within the Dhamma, like a traveler crossing a desert in desperate thirst, searching long and hard for an oasis. One day he found a large pool of fresh, clear water. Joyfully he bathed and drank and stayed, no longer desiring to travel onward. But he still thought of how to bring this water to other travelers or how to guide them to oasis. The Buddha sought the deathless Dhamma to quench spiritual thirst. Having found it, he drank the nectar of Dhamma. His bodily thirst eased as well. He contemplated Paticca
Paticca Samuppada.
The direct process of human life. Ignorance conditions volitional formations. Wait, what the?
Volition, formation, condition, consciousness. They have no comma. That's the
Ignorance
problem.
conditions
Yeah.
volitional formations,
Condition.
Consciousness.
Consciousness, condition, name and form.
Consciousness conditions name and form.
No comma.
No period. Name and form conditions the six sense bases. The six sense bases condition contact. Contact conditions the feeling. Feeling conditions craving. Craving conditions clinging. Clinging conditions becoming. Becoming conditions birth. Birth conditions aging. Death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Okay.
We use period, right? Is good. Okay,
You have
word
to
by
be
word.
careful.
Okay, review. Ignorant, condition, volition,
Ignorance-
formation,
ignorance,
period,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, ignorance conditions.
in the
volition,
grammar.
Yeah.
Volition and formation, condition, consciousness, period.
Yeah.
Consciousness, conditions, name and form,
Yeah,
period.
I know.
Name and form, conditions, the six and base, period.
Yeah.
The six and base, condition, contact, period. Contact, condition, feeling, period. Feeling, condition, craving, period. Okay, I will do the period. Craving, condition, clinking, period. Clinking, condition, becoming, period. Becoming, condition, birth, period. Birth condition, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Period. Okay.
This is the arising process of suffering. Ignorance leads to change. When one doesn't know suffering or misperceives it as happiness, there's no desire to end it. Not seeing its danger, one doesn't seek to escape, thus remains bound to the cycle. Upon realizing the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha saw suffering clearly as suffering, sought the cause, and realized the ignorance is a root. To escape suffering, he knew the path must not follow ignorance. Upon seeing the harm of ignorance and the value of knowledge, he declared that he had found the light like one who exits a long dark cave and sees sunlight never to return to darkness. With that realization, he stepped onto the new bright path called the Noble Path, leaving ignorance behind. He thus taught the reverse process of Paticca Samuppada. When ignorance ceases through the path, volitional formation cease. When they cease, consciousness cease. Then name and form ceases, followed by the six sense bases. Then contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, birth, and aging and death will all cease. By walking this path of wisdom, light prevails, and all ceases, as no conditions remain to support it. As he had once supposed in the park, if there is darkness, there must be light. He had now found the light that vowed never to return to darkness. He had renounced kingship, luxury, his beloved wife and son, choosing the homeless life. He trained in all austerities never fearing hardship. He practiced everything fully, no matter the difficulty. He had sought truth, confident that where there is darkness, there must be light. And now, after 6 long years, he had found it. If he were weak-hearted, he might have quit long ago, but he persevered heroically. He thus praised Kanti, patient endurance, as supreme virtue that burns away all defilements. Whereas defilements normally burn people, he used the fire of patience to incinerate them instead. The light he found was not given by God or external power. It was the light of wisdom found in his own heart. The wall of ignorance was destroyed on that full moon night we now call Vesaka Puja.
Visakha Puja, the day of your ordination.
Well,
You gain ordination this day. Visakha Puja, very holy and blessing day. And then you done both the day ordination and you read enlightenment.
and the light shone unobstructed. After finding both the light and the path, he reviewed the Dhamma through all 3 watches of the night. After each cycle, he exclaimed the same inspired utterance: when Dhamma appears to be steadfast, Brahman, all doubts vanished, because the cause is known. First, after the first watch, he exclaimed this realization. Then after the second watch, when Dhamma appears, all doubts vanish, because the end of conditions is seen. Then after final watch, when Dhamma appears, the Brahmin overcomes Mara and his army, like the sun rising dispels darkness. Even utterance pointed clearly to the realization of Dhamma. All phenomena arise from causes not by anyone's will. Everything arises due to conditions. The second utterance affirmed, when causes are understood, doubt ends. Realization is not from mere thinking or memory, but from the true ending of ignorance, which was the leader of all causes of suffering. Knowing there were no more such causes in himself, the Buddha affirmed that he had found the very light he had searched for all those years. When the causes of suffering were destroyed, Mara and his army with them, the pure mind were destroyed. Suffering were destroyed, Mara and his army with them, the pure mind of a Buddha arose. Where that mind shines, light prevails. Whoever has such a mind is a Buddha, a complete human being, awakened, aware, and joyful.
Okay. That's it. Happiness of liberation after he revealed for 7 days and he enjoyed liberation. What liberation he enjoyed? Okay. Chapter 29.
After the Buddha had spent 7 days contemplating the process of arising and cessation of suffering, which is the essence of his enlightenment beneath the Bodhi tree, he moved to sit beneath the Achapala banyan tree. This was akin to resting after the arduous exertions of long ascetic effort.
What's the meaning of akin? It's lie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Now that he had fulfilled, or similar, now that he had fulfilled his task of seeking the truth, he had realized the truth. His life was now completely free. His rest was in accordance with the natural needs of the body, but his mind was luminous, refreshed, and joyful at all times, as if perpetually resting. The mind, having attained Buddhahood, had ceased all defilement-driven fabrication. It was calm, steady, unshaken, free from all agitation and fluctuation, unmoved by any emotional contact. This freedom from bondage of all defilements, great and small, was permanent and irreversible. The joy arising from such sublime freedom is called the happiness of liberation. It is the true happiness of one who has fully realized the Dhamma. It is the pure happiness that does not depend on any conditions or fabrications. Though the four requisites were still needed to sustain the body according to nature's laws, they were used sparingly, only as necessary. Once the Buddha had attained the highest Dhamma and the highest happiness, palaces, mansions, power, and royal authority no longer held any relevance as sources of happiness. A tree shade, a field's hut, an abandoned house, or even a villager's storage shed could provide equal happiness. Exquisite palace cuisine was no longer needed. He could be content with dried rice and pickled vegetables. Luxurious garments woven in kasi were no longer essential. Even robes made from discarded cloth among corpses or dirt and dust were worn with joy. When he was ill, he would sometimes use the Dhamma as medicine, and at other times use natural herbal remedies such as lotus rhizomes, mung beans, rayo balan, Indian gooseberry, or even urine. Though bodily illness would still arise occasionally, mental afflictions had been eradicated since the day of his enlightenment. Bodily illness could not disturb his true happiness. The Buddha and his disciples were frugal, using the four requisites only in minimal amounts. This was because they had discovered the inner joy that needed no conditions to arise. Their lives were easy and free from suffering. Their lifestyle conserved natural resources and energy without environmental destruction. The Buddha's way is thus the path of preserving life, mind, humanity, animals, and environment for future generations. The value of simplicity and contentment in Buddhism lies in caring for both physical and mental life without plundering natural resources for personal gain to the point of disrupting nature's balance. By using only what is needed, competition is reduced and sharing is increased. Compassion and empathy grow, selfishness and defilements diminish, environmental degradation lessens, resources increase, and nature's balance can be restored. When humans and nature live in harmony, destruction decreases in all aspects, cooperation increases, and peace naturally follows. The Buddha is one of the world's greatest peacemakers. He believed that humans could liberate themselves from the bondage of defilement, and he proved it by his own example. He realized that humanity is the key to creating peace. A complete human being must have wisdom and be free from defilements. As he once explained to a proud Brahmana who looked down on others and often scolded them with disdainful grunts, When asked what makes someone a Brahmana, the Buddha replied, a Brahmana who has cast off evil qualities, who does not scold others, who is free from defilements like bitter dye, self-restrained, has realized the end of knowledge, has lived the holy life completely, and has no swelling of defilements in any emotions in the world. He is rightly called Brahmana by truth. The term Brahmana in the Buddhist time symbolized a person of high virtue and noble lineage, but the Buddha redefined it. Being a Brahmana was not about birth or social status, but about pure action, speech, and thought, free from defilements. Such a person would not oppress or insult others. Their mind would be spotless, without deep Buddhist stains like bitter dye ingrained in cloth. After spending 7 days under the Ajapala banyan tree, the Buddha moved to the Muchalinda tree. At that time, a gentle rain was falling and a cold wind blew, mixing with the rain. The surrounding atmosphere was very peaceful. And though such weather might feel desolate for ordinary people, for the Buddha, whose mind was filled with boundless compassion and wisdom, it was setting conducive to experiencing the joy of the Dhamma. He exclaimed, solitude is happiness for one who is content and sees the Dhamma clearly. Non-hatred and restraint toward all beings is happiness in the world. Freedom from sensual craving is the happiness in the world. The destruction of conceit of self is happiness in the world. These statements describe the happiness of one who has realized the Dhamma, pure, harmless happiness that promotes physical and mental health, peaceful coexistence, and non-violence toward others. It is happiness born from detachment and complete eradication of the ego, rooted in loving kindness, compassion, purity, and wisdom. After 7 days under the Muchalinda tree, the Buddha moved to the Rachayatana tree for another 7 days. There, two merchants named Tapusa and
Palika
offered him powdered and ball-shaped dry food prepared for long journeys. They were the first lay offerings to the Buddha after his enlightenment. Having offered food, they asked to take refuge in the Buddha and the Dhamma for life, becoming the first lay followers to declare refuge in the Buddha and the Dhamma, two of the three jewels. Such declarations arise from understanding the Dhamma with clarity and recognizing its value in life to the point of forsaking other life paths. When one declares refuge in two of three of the triple gem, what matters is the realization of their qualities. Such a person sees the light of the Dhamma clearly. The depth of their journey on the path depends on the strength of their spiritual faculties, faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Still, anyone who sees the value in Buddha and Dhamma is walking the right path. Those who followed it correctly from the beginning will surely reach peace and happiness at the end. Throughout his time, both the Bodhi tree and its surroundings, the Buddha uttered profound reflections each week. He occasionally encountered passerbys. Some walked without notice, others came and left without benefit, but some others gained greatly. Though the formal teaching had not yet begun, those who approached the Buddha with open hearts surely received benefit, for the Buddha had set his purpose clearly, to rise in the world for the benefit and happiness of the many.
Okay, chapter 30, the last chapter today.
After spending 7 days beneath the Rachayatana tree, the Buddha returned to the Ajapala banyan tree. The surroundings were shaded and peaceful, with many large trees growing. There the Buddha reflected on the Dhamma he had realized. It was serene, subtle, refined, and the profound only the wise could truly comprehend. Yet beings in the world were still shrouded in ignorance, their minds clouded, intoxicated by passion and delight in sight, sounds, smells, tastes, touch, and thoughts. They are obsessed with fabricated things, consumed by anger, inflamed by emotions, and lacking inner peace. They would not be able to see the unconditioned Dhamma, unbounded by craving, empty of attachment, and cool with the cessation of defilements. Thus he considered whether teaching the Dhamma to others might be futile, but his immense compassion for beings suffering without a way out, the very reason he had renounced the world to seek the light that would lead others out of suffering, led him to consider whether there were any beings ready to receive his Dhamma. Upon careful reflection, he saw that beings differed. Some had little dust in their eyes, some ready to understand easily. Others had much dust and would struggle. Some had strong faculties and could learn quickly. Others had weak faculties and limited ability to comprehend. Some were interested in the Dhamma already, others were not, distracted by worldly pleasure. Some saw suffering and death in the cycle of rebirth, while others did not. Some were easy to teach, some difficult, some learned quickly, some needed long cultivation. Some will never understand. The Buddha compared this to lotuses growing in a pond, some still submerged, some at the surface, and some rising above the water, untouched by it. He used this natural image to represent beings. Water symbolized defilements, and the lotus symbolized the mind. The less the defilements, the more the mind was ready for the light of wisdom. The Buddha taught that understanding the Dhamma was not about intellectual memory, but about seeing with the mind cleansed of defilements. True insight purifies the mind forever. The essential teachings on learning the Buddhism is this. The quality of the mind determines how well we can learn. If defilements cloud the mind, learning is difficult. Teachers struggle, results are minimal. But if the mind is calm and pure, learning becomes natural and highly effective. The Buddha again used the images of lotuses, some still deep underwater, some just breaking the surface, and some fully above water, awaiting sun. Beings were like these flowers at different stages of readiness. He called them beings rather than humans, to express their shared suffering. From the perspective of suffering, there is no essential difference between humans and animals. Another reason he used the word beings was to refer to mind entangled in defilements. As long as mind is caught in the net of defilements, it is still called a being. He saw that some beings learn easily, others with difficulty, some refuse to learn, some grasp the Dhamma quickly, others require long cultivation, some will never understand at all. And this understanding formed the basis of how the Buddha taught skillfully with compassion and impartiality. Even those uninterested or resistant received his compassion. His purity and wisdom were ready to reach out to those whom he judged could have their visions cleansed, no limits.
Thank you. That's chapter 30. You study more about the Buddha, 30 chapters. And then on presentation day, if you feel appreciate the Buddha's life, the Buddha's experimentation, the Buddha enlightenment, the Buddha great compassion, you can insert and present to the people to show the appreciation from study. So thank you very much for you to pay attention and read continuously. You show the great energy of the scholar continuously. You can lose about the energy of what breakfast. Now you can lose some energy from breakfast, and then you change the breakfast to be the lotus bloom now. Okay, time to pay homage to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhaṃ Bhagavantang Abhivademi Sammāno Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Saupatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho Saṅghang Namami ขอบคุณครับพระอาจารย์ขอบคุณครับธรรมสรโน to spread the Buddha teaching. Okay, can you help me to bring the table to this? Otherwise it is abstract.